Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 8:30. This meeting of the Sawyer County Land, Water, and Forest Resources Committee meeting is called to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Steve Carrianen.
Here.
Randy Newman.
Here.
Kay Wilson.
Here.
Jim Evans. Dale Magnuson. You have a quorum.
Okay, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the certification of compliance with the open meetings law.
This meeting was noticed to the media and the public as required by Section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. The meeting agenda has been set. At this time, we will open it up to public comments. And the first one I have here is Linda Zilmer.
Good morning, Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner, and this morning I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not any organization. I want to thank Natalie from the Conservation Department for sending out emails notifying people of the upcoming Northwest Wisconsin Lakes Conference that will be held in Hayward this year. It's the third Friday in June and always seems to conflict with the zoning ordinance hearing date. So that's unfortunate, but if you can attend, it's well worth it. Then also touching on a lot of different areas is that I would like to request this committee at future meetings to set aside agenda time to take a look at the different plans that are under the jurisdiction of this committee. There's the Land and Water Resource Management Plan, which needs to be amended. Current plan expires in 2026. And then there's a Forest Management Plan and I think an Outdoor Rec Plan. And get grounded in the work that the folks before you have done. So when you have matters like my next item, which is a request for this committee to look at development density, with regard to zoning ordinance amendments that are coming up. One will have to do with multi-dwelling development and potentially consideration of lot sizes, and then also the impact of today's campgrounds on the resources. The campgrounds of today are not the campgrounds of yesterday. And those plans also might give you guidance too, that when I think probably a lot of the people that will be speaking after me are going to be talking about recreational trail usage in our county forests. And so as you listen to the different perspectives, please know that there's a plan you can refer to for further guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Tim Davison.
Tim Davison, avid UTVer, Sawyer County, address 10699 W Twin Bay Road, Hayward. Just some questions that I think will come up and hopefully get answered. If we follow through with this, what effect is this going to do on our emergency services? We're going to get all kinds of people out there using these services. What does that do? And what is the plan for when wildlife is present? If you're in the woods and you see wildlife, like other people that are in the woods, if you're on a motorized vehicle, you have a way to get away. If you're on a bike, you can go faster. The sad fact is if you're out there and you're disabled and you're alone, what can you do? Is there going to be call boxes? Is there going to be tracking going on for people with disabilities, which should be done? If this is phase one and we're only going to be using 9 miles, the Seeley Hills is getting inundated with all kinds of trails and activities, which is great. That's what we want to see on our county property. But if this is the first of 3 phases and this is 9 miles, what's the rest of it going to be like? And what is this going to do to our Sawyer County Forest Management Plan? Are we going to have to switch that up ahead of time? Or are we going to have to just modify it as we go? Those are just some simple questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Janine Evanson.
Good morning. My name is Janine Evanson. I live in the Sealy area, not far from where the proposed trail is. As you all know, Sawyer County has many, many, many miles of snowmobile, ski, ATV, mountain bike, hiking trails. But there's one segment of our population that I feel is not served by our community, and that's the elderly and the disabled. And I feel that a trail like this would be a great addition. I myself am I'm lucky enough to be able to still to ski, to mountain bike, to hike as much as I want, but I'm getting older like we all are. And I think the idea of this trail is great because there's really nothing like it in the county. So I strongly support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane Schrader.
Good morning. My name is Jane Schrader, and I live at 12210 Tart Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. I'm speaking in regards to the proposed trail addition in the Sealy Hills. I enjoy all outdoor activities, but I'd like to voice my concerns with this request for additional biking, walking, hiking trails, and the safety between the motorized and non-motorized user groups. I'm understanding that this is phase 1 of 3 to ask for additional miles of this additional system. I also understand that there are many miles of existing biking, hiking, skiing, walking trails in the county, especially in the Sealy Hills area. I believe that there might be over 300 miles, not certain of that, but of such trails, and adding more may create some safety concerns with other groups. Perhaps a portion of the existing system can be modified to reach the ADA goal instead of creating a complete another system. What is the anticipated number of users? What studies have been completed? Has due diligence been completed by this committee to understand the total existing bike, ski, walk, and hike system to determine if it's designated in the most positive way for all of those users? Can the existing system be utilized for all non-motorized users to keep the safety balance? Can the existing non-motorized group work together, such as the Sawyer County Snow and ATV Alliance, to reach those common goals? These are just some questions that I have. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Don Rotek, please.
Good morning. My name's Don Rotek. I live at 10594 Kansas Avenue. I've been asked to voice the Sawyer County Snowmobile ATV Alliance concerns in regards to this bike project. Adding more miles of silent sport trails to the Sealy Hills. Currently, there are several more miles of silent sports trails compared to motorized trails in this area. ATVs and snowmobiles travel many more miles in a day compared to what bikers and skiers do. There are several types of silent sport trails up there. Are more trails really needed up there in the area? And again, same question, can't they share the trails? With all the trails that are already there, can't those be shared? There's a huge safety concern with more trail crossings with this project and future projects there. And of course, the big thing is right now Sawyer County does not, as far as I know, have a budget for the maintaining the logging roads. The Snowmobile ATV Alliance puts a lot of money into that. So most of our logging roads out there are maintained by the Alliance or the loggers themselves. And of course, the report emphasizes a huge benefit for the handicapped folks. There's a huge concern with that up in the Sealy Hills area. We have very poor phone coverage up there. You know, if they're injured or they need assistance, you know, how are we going to be able to handle that? Along with that, is there a need to do it up in the Sealy Hills compared to what we have in town where we are close to emergency services with the town of Hayward Recreational Park up there, the Hospital Lake Park, and Fish Hatchery. You know, we have 3 main things, plus the city of Hayward, all the bike paths and everything there. We have several different places here that have stuff. I'm not a silent sports person, so I don't know the differences, why, you why would need to? But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kevin Kroll.
Kevin Kroll, 12463 North Real Living Drive. I think the people ahead of me pretty much hit a lot of the things I want to speak about was just the safety concerns. Not only trail crossings, but you start putting people with disabilities and stuff out in the woods with no cell phone reception. I think it's putting our emergency services at a huge risk.
Thank you. Susan Mao.
Good morning, committee members and others present today. My name is Suzanne Mao. I'm at 13435 North White Pine Lane in Sealy. First thing I want to do before I get into a couple of points is suggest that the agenda might not be accurate. It states Sealy Hills. Sealy Hills is a recreational area in the town of Lenroot off of Old Double O. I just want to make sure everybody is clear today that this project in the map is the Sealy Forest Trail ideally based at the Double O trailhead. So two different nonprofits, two different locations, one's in the town of Spider Lake. That's the project that should be noted on the agenda today, okay? Just don't want any confusion. All right, here I go. So I spent some time working on the Sealy Forest Trail. It's a project that expands access for a large audience, and you're going to hear more about that today as a quick review. And it's about enjoying the forest. I'm not like a pay trail tooling around town, and most people here enjoy the forest. Whether you are part of the motorized a family, which I also have experience with. I grew up with a family that had a snowmobile, ATV, and boats, and it was a ton of fun, so I can understand why both motorized and non-motorized people would like to access the forest. Two things I want to highlight today are the public support that we've gained on the project since we were last here, and how the project meets many of the county's goals. So, public support, it's growing a lot. In the last week and a half alone, just from one communication regarding our information session that we held on April 26th at the Double O building. The information session was very well attended. We have since had close to 100 people sign a petition. And in response to that one communication, we've also received dozens of email responses that are supportive of the project. In addition to that, we have the committee members should have received multiple letters, I think maybe 16 or so in total, starting back in February, and I know they've still been coming in over the last week, where people who either couldn't be here today, or even if they could be here today, wanted to make sure that their voices were heard. Some of the letters that you received were not just from individuals, they were also from organizations. These include nonprofit organizations, various clubs in the area, as well as neighborhoods that are in and around the area where the trail is. So just to highlight a couple, this project has been the recipient of multiple community grants, so that certainly demonstrates support from the community. Fishing Has No Boundaries, that's a nonprofit for people with disabilities. They're very excited about this because they do not have access to the forest today, even if it's just 1 mile. Town of Spider Lake, unanimous approval, and that's based on the idea that this trail project meets their #1 objective in their comprehensive plan. Other organizations have included the Sealy Lions. We all know they're great supporters of community projects, including trails, multiple Sealy neighborhoods, as well as several active aging clubs in our area. There are at least 3 of them. The project meets the county goals. I would suggest looking at the comprehensive plan that exists, okay? The fastest growing age segments align with this project. The outdoor recreation plan, 7 of the 9 objectives are met by this project.
Sorry,
That's
I
okay.
hate to cut you off, but we do have a 3-minute
All right.
limit.
In closing, I just would like to say, working on this project, the one key thing I have observed is that it's confirmed excitement in this unique trail design. Again, just based on the overwhelming public support we're just starting to receive. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Choate, please.
Boy, to follow that up. I'm Michael Choate from Cable 14795 McNaught Road. My wife and I run a small business, Start Line Inn. We provide lodging, 2 small lodgings, retail and service actually. It's been 9 years there full time, and I've owned my property since '03. So why I'm here really is our location is the snowmobile trail is our property line, and so our business is right there. Our neighbor is Drumming Woods. You may have heard of Drumming Woods. They're a bed and breakfast. And so we need to Berkey Trail and the Namakagon, this portion of the Namakagon takes care of that snowmobile trail there. And it's all within a couple hundred feet. So both of our properties, the Drumming Woods and ours, we both have little stubs that go to the Berkey Trail. They parallel there. They're very close there, within 20 feet of each other. That being said, we have a good relationship with all the ATV and the snowmobile. We interact fine there. I understand that there's an intersection issue that's being spoken of here, conflicts there possibly. I haven't seen it by us. We get groups that stay by us that ski, teams. And so that part of the equation, I think, isn't even an issue in terms of an intersection issue out there. We do have some signs that say, pedestrian crossing or whatever, and everything's good. I mean, I feel we have a good relationship between the snowmobile and the ATV. That being said, regarding their proposal, the Sealy Forest Trail proposal, I do believe that there is a need for an additional system that's more accessible to older folk, people just kind of entering the biking and the skiing. I get a lot of clients that come to us. They've got a car full of bikes and young people, and they're like, well, where can we go? Out our door is very challenging. I'm right at the American Birkebeiner start. It's very challenging. And I need to tell them to pack up and go elsewhere, oftentimes here in Hayward for the gateway trails, hospital trails. So I really see this as a benefit. I really do. I think it'd help just the area in general. Other than that, the other thing is it's an all-season. It would be an all-season system where ATV, you get locked out because of, mud season and ground issues. Snowmobile, I don't know that I've seen 5 snowmobiles come by in 2 years. Sadly, we hope that changes, but that is an issue. So it's an all-season. It'll be an all-season usage. So I'm here to support it, really, and that's about it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Carolyn Sentry.
I'm Carolyn Senti at 13402 White Pine Lane in Sealy, and I'm here to support the Sealy Forest Trail. I feel like this is a much-needed resource in our community, as others have spoken. It would provide recreational opportunities for families, for an aging population. There's a number of us in our 60s, 70s, 80s who still want to be active, but are finding it more challenging to tackle some of the more difficult trails. And then, of course, there's those with disabilities who don't currently have very many places that they can recreate. As has been mentioned, the outdoor recreation plan for Sawyer County does have as an objective listed trails that meet all of these needs. Some of the objections about having to slow down seem kind of frivolous to me when there are dozens of places where ATVs or snowmobile trails probably cross driveways or other roads and have to slow down or stop in those situations. So objecting to 2 crossings of a ski trail in over 600 miles of trails, and it seems laughable. They're only being asked to slow down if there's a pedestrian or a skier or someone there. They don't even have to stop completely if there's no traffic there. Rerouting the Sealy Forest Trail is not really an option because of the terrain. They're trying to keep it fairly flat so it's more usable for more people. And also because of some private property restrictions where we can't cross those areas. It's hard to believe that just 2 new crossings where motorized vehicles wouldn't even have to stop, they would have actually the right-of-way, would be such a hardship that we should prevent expanding access to the forest lands in Sawyer County, especially for the casual or aging users and those with disabilities have no other options. So I support the Sealy Forest Trail proposal and ask for your approval for this much-needed resource. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Stanley Walzak.
Good morning. My name is Stan Walzak. I live in the town of Lenroot in Sealy. I'm here to support this trail proposal. I'm a permanent resident of Sawyer County. I find this proposal to be inclusive of all people and to be able, for all people to be able to use our public forest lands. I do not take issue with having to slow down or watch for others at trail intersections. I do it all the time, whether I'm walking, hiking, or biking. It is not a hardship for me to see that others have the same rights as I do when using public lands. I'm in favor of seeing this proposal moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 7 is consider approval of minutes of previous meetings.
I so move.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is events. Are there any events for us to consider?
No applications for this month.
Thank you very much. Next, we go to the Register of Deeds report.
Yeah, I just submitted the report talking about all the changes with Act 235 that we're implementing and all the software data and all the changes that we've been doing for internal and external users. So if you guys have any questions. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, thank you very much. Next item here is land records and county surveyor report. I think we all. Okay, committee members, I think we all received a copy of both reports. Are there any things to discuss there? Okay, I guess we can move on to the county forestry report.
Okay, for the month of April, we did have 6 sales listed as active. We're starting to get a bit more activity in our spring summer ground as conditions improve right now. 5 sales we did close out during the month. Our sale value that's sold and uncut on file right now is just over 3.8 million. With the approval of the timber sale bid from a few weeks ago, we should be up to about 5.2 million on that. Sale revenue for the month was $46,510, a pretty slow month given the spring breakup and everything. So our year to date, we're just under 700,000. Sale inspections are on target for the month. We did have 1 track turned in for review. Recon acres updated. We are on target for that. We did start our new Good Neighbor Authority contract for year 26, which is approximately 495 hours of timber sale establishment and administration on the National Forest. That's going well. Nothing new to report on oak wilt. We are in the oak wilt restriction right now. I guess that's something I could have put in there, but mountain bike trails in Berkey, nothing new to report. ATV, UTV trails, this is the list of our grant applications for the April 15th deadline. So we have our 3 normal maintenance grants. We did reapply for several new miles of ATV trail. And then we have 5 additional rehab projects that we applied for. So it's a pretty big ask this year for our grants. So oftentimes we have to drop one of them off or something like that, but we'll see. The council meetings are usually in July or August that review these grants. So as for carbon, we're working on verification requests for the period 1 reporting period right now. So we should start seeing some movement on that shortly. So unless there's any questions, that's all I have for my monthly.
Any questions, committee? Very good. Thank you, Greg. Next item on the forestry agenda, item B, is the proposed land trade.
Okay, this one we talked about, I think it was August last year. I presented the initial proposal and I got okayed for the appraisals on the property. Just as a review, we are looking at trading Sawyer County parcel, an 80-acre parcel that is not enrolled in county forest. It's just county owned. We took this on back taxes in the year 2000. The parcel is outside of our county forest blocking boundaries. So when it was taken, it was left as a trade parcel for a situation like this. The parcel that we're looking at acquiring is a 37.869 acre parcel that's near the high point on the Berkey Trail. There's a private 40 next to it, but the rest of it's surrounded by county forest. So it's a real ideal parcel that we would like to block in within the county forest boundary. So the appraisals came in. The Sawyer County parcel was appraised at $2,700 per acre. The Samuel and Zeman Trust property was appraised at $2,300 per acre. So the differences in appraisal values, we do have town road access on the 80. The private parcel is landlocked by county forests. So with that, this appraisal that Steigerwald did for us was a sales comparison approach where they just based it on property sales. And talking with the landowner, and since obviously we are a forestry business, we decided to add in an income approach, part of it with timber value on the property. So we cruised both parcels. The Sawyer County parcel was pretty cut over. It wasn't in real great shape when we acquired it in 2000. The Samuel parcel is really nice, really high quality saw timber. It's something that we could probably hop in soon and do a harvest on. So the Sawyer County parcel, the timber valuation is just over $630 per acre. And the Samuel parcel was just over $1,600 an acre for timber valuation. So total valuation for the Sawyer County 80 is $266,544, and that's with the appraisal and the timber value. The Samuel parcel, the total valuation on that is $149,099.34 based upon the appraisal and timber value. So the final proposal is an even trade for the parcels with an additional $117,444 to be paid to Sawyer County to complete the transaction. I've got the appraisals included in the packet. I think this would be a really good exchange for us. We get a real high value parcel in a well-used area for us. So anybody has any questions?
Any questions?
No, I'm gonna make the motion to move this to the county board for approval for the land swap.
Second.
Any further discussion? One question, Greg, who paid for the appraisal? Did we?
We paid for the appraisal. The landowner is offering to pay for the closing costs, so we can recoup some of that back that way.
Is there going to be cutting of timber next to the high point of the Berkey Trail?
At some point, yeah. We manage that area as it is now, so. We don't do buffers per se, but we do alter our management to try to encourage more long-lived species. We try to leave a little bit more of a density along the trail. So we do make some compromises there for aesthetic purpose. No, not in this instance, no. I mean, we do have some that we really don't have an option, but we do alter our sale designs to consider aesthetics into it. So it's something that we work on the Berkey Trail and a lot of our rec trails all the time. The parcel by the high point is not it's a northern hardwood oak type. It would be something we would manage through selective thinning anyway. So the aesthetics impact is minimal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second to move it to the county board. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up is item C, spring timber sale bid results.
Okay, we had our timber sale bid opening last Tuesday. We offered 22 tracts. We did receive acceptable bids on 20 for a total of 1,493 acres. Total sold value, if approved, would be just over 1.4 million. I have the summary sheet. It was a pretty good bid opening for us. We had a lot of bids to get through, probably the most bids we've had in quite a few years. I tend to track the aspen and mixed hardwood products and then oak logs generally for our products to see where things are going. So, our aspen did bump up a little over 10%. So that was good to see. Hardwood pulp did bump up, but the most important thing was the fact that we were selling 20 out of 22. So all of the high bid contractors are contractors we've worked with in the past. So there's no concerns or issues with any of the high bidders. So my recommendation would be to approve all high bidders.
Okay, any questions, or should we consider moving this on?
I'll make a motion to accept all high bidders and move it to county board.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item D, Sealy Hills Trail, Sealy Forest Trail proposal, discussion and possible action. All right.
Thank you.
Floor is yours.
Hello again. Hopefully third time is a charm. So I don't want to spend, we're not going to run through a presentation. Everybody's seen the presentation. They've, I think, gotten a good handle on what the proposal is. But I want to start by saying this project is about expanding recreational access to a wider audience, including people with disabilities. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the target audience. We'll briefly touch again on the existing trails that we have and why there's a gap in those trails for a very large audience that is currently not being served. And then we'll run through the Sealy Forest Trail map in more detail so we can look at crossings, et cetera. And then talk about some of the concerns that we're hearing from Motorized Group and what we think might be good solutions to those concerns. So the group we're going after, when it comes to outdoor recreation, they're the fastest growing group that participate in human-powered activities, and they've been dubbed the casual participant by the Outdoor Industry Association, which the Outdoor Industry Association is a group of companies that focus on the outdoor recreation, companies like REI, Trek Bikes, Patagonia Clothing. So they all pool money, and then this association spends a lot of time doing research so they can better understand, who their customers are and what their customers are looking for. And what they found is the casual participant is, as you would expect, many of them are 55 and older. Interestingly, there's a group, the younger group, under 24 years old, that is becoming a pretty large portion of the casual participants. So they're not interested in high-tech gear. They don't care about perfecting their outdoor skills. They're not trying to win races, set Strava records, anything like that. They basically just want to get outside, spend time with friends and family in nature, boost mental health, build community. And that group actually represents 40% of all outdoor participants in the human-powered segment. So why are our existing trails not meeting the needs of these people? Well, everybody knows we have world-class cross-country ski trails. We have, regionally and even nationally renowned single-track mountain bike trails. People travel here for those trails. And so our ski trails are limited to skiing only in the wintertime. And when you think about the Birkie Trail, you need to be a very skilled skier to be able to ski the Birkie Trail. In the summertime, that trail is essentially abandoned until snow falls. So it's used 3, maybe 4 months out of the year. Other than that, it's essentially empty. But it's a trail that it has a grassy surface. It's extreme terrain for the majority of the trail. And so it's not usable by a large group of people, this group of casual participants. And then we have our purpose-built single-track trails, which are, very well designed. But these trails require more advanced skills than the typical person is going to have. It requires more expensive equipment. Most people are riding full suspension bikes. They're not going to be out there riding their casual bike that they, bought from Walmart. They're not trails designed for that type of use. So the concept for the Sealy Forest Trail is to create an easy year-round multi-use trail. So it's not dedicated to any one activity. You can have people hiking it, biking it, running on it, however they want to get out there. And so it will appeal to a much broader age range, a much broader skill level that, it doesn't require really high intensity skills. It'll accommodate numerous human-powered activities and also will be designed, some of the trail, not all of the trail, will be designed for people with disabilities. And we'll talk about this in a minute. The trail design is incorporating existing logging corridors, and that's to minimize our impact on the forest floor. So how did we get here? What inspired this idea. So we built a home here 21 years, 21 years ago. And we specifically, it was a second home at the time. And we specifically built it because we had direct access to the Berkey Trail. And that's what brought us here, was our fantastic trail system. And everybody around us, it basically did the same thing. And what we've seen over time, and I think you heard from Carolyn, people are getting older and they're aging out of being able to use our existing trails. And initially what we saw was in wintertime. That was the first place where people started struggling on the existing trails. Trying to fat bike single track trails in the wintertime is very challenging for people who are aging, might start having balance issues. And so they were essentially relegated to gravel roads. And so we decided, hey, we can create something that they can use in the wintertime. And so in 2020, we created the trail. It's a wider, basically the whole concept of this trail. This is how it was born. It's a wider trail. We're able to groom it with bigger equipment, pack it better. It's on easy terrain as much as possible. And so what it did is it allowed people to still get out and be active in the wintertime where they were starting to lose their abilities. And it turned out it ended up being widely praised and used by just a huge variety of people, not just people riding fat bikes. It was people hiking, walking their dogs, backcountry skiing. So people that they're not training for, to race the Berkey Trail. They're out there just kicking around on their skis just to get out into nature. And so it's very popular. And we started hearing, well, hey, it would be great if we could use this in the summertime too. And so that's where the concept of expanding the trail to the 00 trailhead came from. And also the reason for wanting to upgrade the surface of the existing trail because it's rough because we were originally thinking just using it in wintertime. So it didn't have to have a really nice surface. Once we packed enough snow, it was in good shape. So the trail design is to, again, use existing logging corridors as much as we can, either numbered logging roads, skid routes, things like that, so that we're not cutting virgin trail and adding additional trail to the forest. We're just cleaning up and using what already is there, but just not being used. It would be a 12-foot corridor, 8-foot wide, and this is really important, maintained as a dirt surface. So we don't want it to be a grassy surface. We aren't going to let it turn into a two-track with a mound of grass in the middle. Because of the design, we'll be able to get equipment in there and keep it maintained as a fully dirt surface the whole width of the trail. And that's one thing that people really want because the grassy trails just don't get used in the summertime. And the grassy trails are not conducive to getting out there on a bike, in a wheelchair, anything like that. So if we look at the map, now I first want to say that the original map that we submitted a long time ago, almost a year ago, the grand vision was to have multi-phases and more trail, but with the intention of only getting approval for a single phase and then seeing how it goes, and if we need to come back in the future, if we decide, it's so wildly popular that we need more trail, we would come back for approval and go through this process would take place with public input. If for some reason we do end up, adding phases in the future. But as of right now, we don't have those plans. But again, that would require this process for it to take place. So looking at the map, the dashed red line that you see, so that is the existing trail that we've been using in the wintertime. Now, over on the western edge, actually, it gets used quite a bit from the neighborhoods that the people that live over on the western end of that trail. So it actually gets used quite a bit on the western end by people who live there, but the eastern side is essentially abandoned in the summertime. So that trail we would want to upgrade that so it can be used year-round, the entire trail. And then we want to be able to connect it to the 00 trailhead. A trailhead is really critical. We see people parking on Janet Road all the time to use it, which is great, but having it connected to a real trailhead will just make it much, much more usable for people. So if we, on the second page, we can kind of zoom in on the new trail. So it's the same map, only zoomed in, and so it's only looking at the new trail. So the new trail would be approximately 4 miles, and starting at originating from the 00 trailhead. When you look at the map, you'll see 2 crossings. So the yellow trail, I highlighted it in yellow, so it's easier to identify. The yellow trail is the ATV snowmobile trail. And you'll see 2 new crossings where the solid red line is the new proposed trail, and in 2 places that crosses the ATV UTV trail. And that seems to be where the biggest concern is. Now, the ATV group suggested moving the trail so that it doesn't cross the ATV trail. And there are 2 problems with that. One, we're dictated by private property and extreme terrain where we can put this trail. So our goal is to keep it, on the easy side. And so we're very limited on where it can actually be physically located in the forest. And secondly, there is no way to connect the existing trail to the 00 trailhead without crossing the ATV trail. I mean, it physically cannot be done because that ATV trail, crosses diagonally through the corridor. We have no way of getting around it. We have to go through it, across it. Now, the crossings themselves. Somebody, I think, had mentioned, safety concerns. And when we had the trail user meeting, they brought that up. And so the question was asked, well, how many pedestrian accidents have there been in Sawyer County involving motorized off-highway vehicles? And the answer was 0. So there hasn't been any that we're aware of. So we even went so far as to comb through 10 years of published crash reports that the statewide published crash reports. And in that 10 years of data, we found 1 incident involving a UTV and a pedestrian. And in that particular case, the operator, there was somebody standing behind the UTV. I think this was 2017, incident 21, I think it was. There was somebody standing behind the UTV, and the operator of the UTV accidentally stepped on the gas rather than the brake, and unfortunately ran the person over. But that was the only incident we could find involving an off-highway vehicle with a pedestrian. So from a safety standpoint, I think the concern can be met. Now, another concern is having to slow down if there's somebody at the crossing. And we've thought about that a lot, actually. And so with our trail design, our plan would be, the motorized people do not have to stop. And we would sign both crossings we'd sign them really well, so both the motorized people know and the non-motorized people know that there's a crossing. And for the non-motorized people, we would have them stop. And in our case, we would also request that they do not congregate on the motorized trail, because that's where the issues tend to come from at the trail crossings, is you get people who get to a trail crossing, especially on the single track mountain bike trails. They're with a group, they get to a trail crossing, and what do? They congregate on the motorized trail to wait for their group to catch up, and then they take off again. And so it's the people congregating on the trail that really cause the concern of having to slow down when a motorized vehicle comes by. And we think by our trail being wider and by signing it so that people know don't congregate on the motorized trail, the motorized people would be able to just continue through as if there was nobody there. And we think also that CAMBA could do something similar where they sign, because a lot of people are coming from outside the area and they get to a trail crossing, they don't know it's a motorized trail. It's a trail, a road, they don't know. So if it were properly signed, asking people to not congregate on the motorized trail, I think we could alleviate some of the consternation between the two groups. Now, if you look at the map from the lower left, follow the yellow line, and you'll see two crossings. The solid black line is the Berkey Skate Trail, and the dashed black line is the Berkey Classic Trail. So the motorized group currently has to stop at those trail crossings. Now, in the summertime, and Ben Pop openly admits this, the Berkey Trail is basically not used. So why don't we remove the stop signs at those two crossings for the summer, and to offset the two new crossings? It would actually probably improve the experience for the motorized people, because now they've got two places where they don't have to stop. There are two places where they might have to stop if there's somebody standing on the motorized trail at a crossing. So I think we could actually improve the experience for the motorized group if we were to eliminate the stop signs in the summertime, put them back up for winter, and I think we'd have a pretty good solution. So I think that's going to be about it. I mean, I just want to reemphasize that there is a gap in our trails. We don't have trails to accommodate a really, really large group of people and an aging population. Something else that I should mention is we have the funding to move forward with the project. We have the money in the bank. And so I think with that, actually, there was one other thing I wanted to address. The emergency. So there was a big effort by Jerry Wright to get the emergency locate, the ELM system, out on the CAMBA trails and the Berkey Trail, the emergency locator. And so we would, continue using that system for emergency services, where there are signs placed, and all you have to do is put in the number that's on the sign, and they'll know exactly where you are, and it's all mapped out how emergency services gets there. Sometimes they might take an ATV trail, they might take the Berkey Trail, so they have multiple options of getting there, and that's all part of the program that was set up for emergency location. So with that, I'll leave it up to you guys for questions.
Thank you.
There is north of, if you move just a little bit to the east of where this trail is, on the other side of Telmark Road, the cell service is really bad. Although there was a tower that went up recently because I know we now get cell service over on Highway 77. But north of there, I know for sure there is.
Okay, any other questions, committee? Mr. Peterson, how do you feel about this?
Oh, okay. I put a lot of time into this. I know the Maos have put a lot of time into this. And I've really wrestled with this and trying to come up with the best decision on this, or my recommendation. Is like I said from the start, I do like the idea of a trail of this nature. But at this point, I've got several reasons that I don't think I can recommend an approval of this trail project at this time. The biggest one is from the start was the trail density issue and the user conflict in this area. For the 20 years that I've been here, we've been trying to maintain a balance between all the user groups. And we've got to a point where everybody kind of gets along. We're separate enough, and where they do interact, everybody's at least cordial and everything. So, and we've worked pretty hard on that. And with this trail proposal, a lot of the feedback that I got back from both sides of user groups, from motorized and non-motorized, this is causing a lot of tension in that whole community that uses the forest. One of the big issues that keeps coming up now gives me a lot of concern is we're throwing around ADA accessible statements on this trail a lot. And I don't think you can dabble in ADA requirements on a trail system. I think if you're gonna say it's an ADA accessible trail, it has to be 100% ADA accessible with all those requirements that are in place. I think this is a big liability for the county if we misrepresent a disabled access trail. And this gets into the location on this, the topography in this area. As you see on the map, there's several extreme terrains, but a lot of it is not really suitable for this type of use. And not that I have a problem with a trail of this nature, but just this location, it's just too much. And one of the user group meeting that we did have, and this question came from one of the silent sports groups, was, does this trail have to be right here? Can the trail be moved to another location? And the answer was no. So it was kind of a non-starter at that point. The trail surface, my initial impression was we were going to have a gravel trail surface, which I think still ties into ADA requirements. A native trail surface, there is no way that can be an all-season trail. We have graveled motorized trails that we have to have spring closures on. A native trail surface, the first family group that heads out there that does have somebody with a wheelchair or mobility issues, some of these soil types are great. They're sandy soil, you can get by with a lot, but you get to some of the silt caps that are in the Sealy Hills, and it's going to be a greasy mess, and we're going to have a lot of problems with it. In this particular chunk with all these trails, it's going to displace a lot of our traditional uses. And the one use that we don't, we've developed a lot of trails, in the last 20 years here across the board. And we take a lot of hits on our timber industry on this. With this trail, I know it's supposed to be open still for timber sale management, but I think with that level of density, we're really going to run into some troubles selling sales. We already have contractors that they see rec trails, they see bike trails, they either give us no bid or they give us a reduced bid on it. And quite frankly, this is a low one on me, but it's, one of the reasons this project took this long to get through is we are pretty strapped in the office for staff time. With the organized trail groups we already have, with our timber sale program, with carbon credits, with everything, we just don't have a lot of time to dedicate to another trail system to administer it. So, because if this was approved, you know, there's still steps. We still have to go through stormwater discharge, permitting, final location. So, and like I said, I've really wrestled with this. You know, I spent a lot of time in the woods with the Maos, and we had a lot of good discussions. And you know, I don't want to let them down with this, but at this point, I recommend that we not proceed with it.
Speaking for myself, I certainly, you know, am fond of the concept as well. And I would like to see it happen as well, but there are concerns. I mean, the forestry group is charged first and foremost with managing the forest for the health and productivity of the forest. And wherever possible, allow other uses, as many other uses as possible, to proceed. And it would be great to have a trail like you're proposing. And I'm left asking, is it possible to scale back what you've proposed a little more to work with Greg's concerns about overdevelopment? You know, maybe have a smaller footprint, maybe 1/2 of what you've proposed here, either the 4 or 5 mile segment, and possibly consider that? Just a question. A question, yeah, for both of you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I think this particular block that we're in, I think we've got to look elsewhere. You know, the topography itself, this is way too challenging. You know, and that was one of my concerns going into it. You know, so I know we've dabbled in some of the bike trail or bike paths years ago, and there are stretches of Chippewa Trail. I think we had a proposed bike path, and that got kind of nixed because of the grade on Chippewa Trail. And there's certain spots that's like you don't think it's much of a grade, but you get above a certain point and it's just too much. And the Sealy Hills are called the Sealy Hills for a reason. It's tough topography.
Can I point out one thing? So I'm looking at, this is map 7 from the comprehensive plan. It's kind of it's a topographical map, and I know you guys probably can't see it, but the red that you see on the map, those are slopes of 20% or more. The area we're looking at, so you can see there's a red spot here. That would be on the right-hand side of the map where you see the extreme terrain. And then if you move over to the left, you've got the red over there as well. But everything in between that, I mean, it's funny because the local skiers, the area south of Bodecker Road, on both the Berkey Skate and Berkey Classic trails, that's been dubbed the Bodecker Flats. And there's a reason for that. It's the most gentle terrain you're going to find anywhere along the Berkey Trail. And it's generally flat. I mean, that's why there are a number of wet areas that we're avoiding with this trail, because it's flat enough that they flood at times. So in terms of terrain, I mean, we've chosen the most gentle terrain you can find in the area.
In regards to Greg's comment about ADA compliant, that's something I guess I hadn't considered before, and I guess that would be a question perhaps for legal to dig into a little bit, just to make sure that we're not exposing the county.
Sure. Yep.
Risk. Yes, Bill.
Yeah. So Mr. Moore.
Yes.
What would you be asking Greg to do to his part of the work of establishing this trail? What would you need Greg to do on the county's part? I mean, you're going to basically, you have all the funds to do it.
We have the funds, we have we've got the machine lined up to do the work. There's a an approval or a water management plan that would need to be done that I don't know if we can get involved in that or not, or if that's just something that only the county people can work on. But that would be the main thing. When you think about the trail design, I mean, it's all about water management and getting water off the trail. So, I mean, we've seen, if you look at Sealy Pass, which is the most popular mountain bike trail in the Canvas system, it's built in this same area. And it closes for mud season in April. And once it reopens, they've never had to close it I think it was built in 2012. So in 10 years, they've never had to close the trail once it's dried out for the season. And the reason for that is because it's designed with proper drainage, and which is the exact same thing that we would be focused on when building this trail, is making sure that, you're getting water off the trail, and that helps.
This, we're not talking about building a UTV trail here. We're talking about building a walking trail and maybe a bicycle. So basically, walking, you don't create mud when you're walking. You don't create ruts. Like the UTV has to deal with ruts and mud, and that's a big deal in the spring to deal with that. But on this high ground that this is built on, and I can see why you'd want to build it there, because it's picturesque forest land. It's one of our premier spots in the county to walk. It's high ground, looking down at the extreme terrain around there, and so I can see that's where you'd want to walk and have a walking trail for the beauty that's there. And I think that our citizens of this county need to have access to spots like that, and our tourists that come in here, it would be a benefit to them to experience that beauty that's up there. And not all of them want to do the UTV and that stuff. There's, like you say, there's a big market for the casual ones that just want to experience nature, and nature at its best right there. And Sawyer County's forests can provide that nature if you have access to it, instead of just driving by it on the road. So, I'm all for this nature walking trail, where possibly some people with disabilities could access parts of it. They're not going to be able to access all of it. That's basic logic. Otherwise, you're going to have a blacktop road. You're not trying to do that. But there'll be parts of it that will be where you'll be able to, people of that disability would be able to see it, or see that nature. And we got a group here that's providing all the legwork for us to develop this, and mapped it out and searched it and did a lot of research on it, all the legwork. So I don't know it. And I think our groups have to work together. I understand the ATV and the UTV and all the different trails there, but that's where this beautiful spot is in our county. And so, yeah, a lot of users are going to want to use that spot. So I think he has good answers to the two crossings of the UTV trail, and like he's going to work with the Berkey to eliminate the stop signs on the Berkey Trail for the summer months. So that's actually a benefit, like he was saying. So I see a lot of benefits to the county with this proposal.
Can I make two more comments?
Please.
So regarding the ADA, so the National Forest Service actually has, they have guidelines for accessible trails. And so that would be the roadmap for making sure that the trails that are built are meeting the guidelines put out by the National Forest Service. And then just one other comment. I know, Sawyer County has 115,000 acres of managed forest land, roughly, somewhere in there. And if you look at this, half mile by 1.5 mile section where this trail would go, that represents, I think, less than 300 acres out of the 115,000 where there might be more density and a little less timber that could come out of it, but that's under 1/4% of the total managed forest land in Sawyer County. And to what benefit? I mean, you've heard from people, these are the people that this trail is designed for. And we've watched. So people are, sorry. People are leaving the area because they can't use the trails anymore. They feel like there's nothing here for them anymore. So we want to give them something.
Okay.
I'd like to speak to this issue. I'm in favor of the trail. I'm the person that they're speaking to who used to ski on the Berkey Trail, but can no longer handle the significant hills. And I would welcome a flatter terrain, much like the Easy Strider Trail that was developed by the Berkey. The hatchery trails and the Hayward Outdoor Recreation Area are challenging as well. So this area is unique, it's inclusive, and I think it's important for the population that they're trying to serve.
Thank you. Any other?
I have a question for and we're all in favor of helping out our disabled and our elder groups, which I'm a member of. But when you say that there's sections that are accessible to our disabled, how do they get to those sections?
It'll be the sections for people with disabilities will be out starting right from the trailhead, from the double
Right from the
trailhead.
trail. I share Greg's concerns about everything being ADA compliant in the right ways for liability reasons, first and foremost. And I would make a motion that we table this till we can send it to legal and get some clarification. If I can make that motion.
It might be prudent for us to,
Or pass it along.
well, yeah. We don't have legal online, I presume. No, okay. I guess if we were to pass it along, legal, I'm sure, would be weighing in at the county board level, so maybe we could just assume
To the
that.
full board. Then I'd make a motion that we pass this along to the board.
Okay, we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that. That will pass this to the county board meeting. So that basically we're in approval of it here at this meeting, correct?
Not yet.
Not yet?
We have to vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no,
I
that's
can
okay.
rescind my motion.
We'll rescind your motion.
I'll rescind that motion. I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? Okay. Well, I guess we've heard a lot about this from all sides. Does anyone care to make a motion to approve the project as proposed?
I'll make a motion to approve the Sealy Forest Trail System and to move it on to county board.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Got that? 4 in favor? 1 opposed? 3 to 2. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right. So, very good.
Thanks.
Motion approved. Next, we move on.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, excuse me.
Do you want this all recorded, that you made that motion and it's rescinded and the confusion over this whole thing in the minutes?
If you can.
I'll try to do that. And then the second question is, if you're going to request Rebecca Roker to be present at the county board meeting, that needs to be an official ask. You're spending money now, and you got to get her to commit. She may not be available that night. If this whole thing rides on her legal opinion, that's something you should also maybe think about right now.
I'll make the motion that we request Rebecca there for legal advice.
Does she have to be there, or can she just have a
Or
legal
Zoom in.
opinion at her
Well,
office
she should
hours?
be there to answer questions. If I have questions about legal ramifications for the county and everything else like that, Kate.
You're really asking two things. You're asking for a legal opinion, probably prior to the meeting, and then her to be available. We'll have to check to see if she would be available at next week's meeting. So is the committee okay if it gets pushed off a month? If there's no legal available?
I think that would be fine.
Okay.
Okay, I have to say something because I don't want this to get out of the chain of what's right. We were back to the subject of tabling it until we could get confirmation on the correct procedures and what's all involved here. So asking an attorney who's Wisconsin Counties Association, if they can just on the spur of the moment commit to a meeting in 7 days and try to get it, we're still trying to get her to respond to stuff about the Lake District. So I don't want to see you guys get ahead of yourselves and get this on the county board meeting and then she's not available and we don't hear back. Okay. Is that worded in a motion then?
Please. Yep.
Okay, so motion to approve subject to the availability of legal to pass on to county board, and if not, then we would revisit this in 30 days?
No, we just move it to the next board meeting a month later, the county board meeting a month later. If she is not available for this meeting, it would.
Okay, very good. Next item on the agenda, item E, is the Wisconsin DNR report.
All right. Nice seeing you all again. I don't have a formal report other than speaking on the dry spell that we've been coming into with a higher fire danger risk. As of late, our signs are to very high and annual permits have been suspended for now, which allows no burning of debris at any time of the day other than a cooking or warming fire. As far as forestry goes, the DNR has made offers to a new liaison that would be covering Sawyer County. As you may know, I have taken the ranger position. I am interim also forestry liaison. However, they will be starting June 2nd, and I will be here to help introduce them at the next committee meeting. If there's any other questions, feel free.
Can I ask an off-topic question? About water levels? I'm on the board of the Bass Lake Township as well, and we just had a planning committee meeting, and the big discussion is raising the water levels. And somebody suggested that the DNR was already thinking about raising water levels 6 inches. Is that on the table?
I have heard that comment, but Jay may have more information.
Oh, Jay.
You want to hear about it now, or do you want to hear about it during our?
I can do that. That's
Okay.
fine.
Otherwise, I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, U.S. Forest Service. They were supposed to be here today, but I was notified 2 days ago that they regret they will not be able to attend today's meeting. We look forward to them in the future. Next, item G, recreational trails report, motorized.
Hello again, Tim Davison with Sawyer County Alliance. Come on, phone. Just touching base on what we're doing with our trail system. Every year, all the trails in Sawyer County are managed by, in conjunction with the county forestry, and the work is done by the Alliance and contracted out from the Alliance. Right now, we're putting in for grants at around $200,000 to $300,000 a year, which is phenomenal. And we're doing a lot of work on our trails, and we're getting a lot of work done on our trails. They've come a long ways in 7 years that I've been around here. I'm really proud of the work that's being done. Currently, we're spending around $180,000 of our money that we receive for maintenance on maintaining the trail system. That's replacing culverts, grading, brushing, mowing, labor, putting in manual labor of signing and brushing also. We currently are seeing more and more traffic on the trail system through forestry with the logging companies. And we've gotten steady in improving relations with them as far as putting the trails back to the way they were. Sometimes that didn't happen in the past, and I think it's working better and better every year. Since 2020, we've put $2 million back into the county trail system through grants and aid. Just for facts, we were out brushing earlier. We had to quit because of the spring brushing limit at April 15th. We will resume again in July 15th. We're brushing all the other times of the year, generally try to do some in the winter also. And we're out grading this spring. We've done one complete grading of all the new rehabs that we've done within the last 3 years. They've all turned out fantastic, and we're going to do more. Probably will grade 2 more times this year. That's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Non-motorized. Anything on non-motorized trails today? All right, we'll move on to item 12, zoning conservation report.
Yeah, as part of the conservation report, we did have staff attend the spring AIS partnership meeting. This was a chance for our AIS coordinator, Natalie Erler, to discuss work plans with other AIS staff in the region and the upcoming field season. The tree sale has concluded as of last week. This was another successful event for the county. We were able to buy 1 to 2 year old trees and then sell them in bulk to property owners. This isn't generally a revenue generating operation though, but it does, be net neutral for us, and we're able to provide a discounted rate to those individuals that are wanting to plant native vegetation within our area. Dam checks are still ongoing. Very little precipitation this spring, below average rainfall and snowfall events. Our lakes are low everywhere, and they have been for the last 4 years. We are definitely in a drought, as you heard from the DNR forest ranger as well. Fire dangers are super high right now. And I just did a little bit of research on the Farmers Almanac. We are also predicted to have a hot and dry summer as well. So we'll definitely need some rain here soon. Non-metallic mining, which is our gravel pits, those inspections are ongoing currently. And we do have a few students signed up for our conservation summer camp. This is put on by Wisconsin Land and Water. And then Scope has also generated or has provided the scholarship opportunity for those students to attend, 2 from each school. Those application deadlines then are May 9th. Going back to the previous question from Mr. Evans, as part of the ongoing Billy Boy flowage is ultimately what we call it. It's called the Billy Boy Dam. It controls the lake levels of Little Lac Courte, and then in turn Grindstone and Whitefish. As of boy, this is going on over a year and a half ago, the Whitefish Lake Property Owners Association submitted a petition to the DNR to change the official ordered water levels. It was brought to my attention when I first became the zoning and conservation administrator back in 2020 that the previous administration had been inaccurately monitoring or inaccurately controlling the lake levels. They were taking the gauge reading from the dam, and if you go back to the 1955 order, which is the established order, that was back when there was the Public Service Commission, which was basically before the DNR was even the DNR. They set a minimum and maximum as to where those lake elevations were to be kept at. I don't know what happened, over the last 30 years, but in the order it said that the lake levels are to be kept on the main lake of Le Coudray. Yet those readings were taken at the dam. When you move where the readings were taken to back to the main lake, everything ends up dropping further down. So there was a reduction in those lake levels in that the county needed to get back into the set ordered by the DNR. The DNR wrote us a letter saying that we were not in compliance with the ordered water levels. So that's, fast forwarding to where we are now. That petition was submitted. There were some additional questions that were proposed back to the county as to established prescriptive rights and flood and flowage easements, which our legal counsel had advised us that we have established those. So we've moved that request back under the DNR. It is now back in the DNR's hands, and they will be submitting for an official public hearing to raise the maximum set water level as part of that 55 order. There's no proposal to raise the minimum, but right now we have a min and max that's a 6-inch difference, which is a very tough control point. So ultimately the request is to raise the max an additional 6 inches, and hopefully then we're going to be keeping it toward the high side of the max. All in all, if we don't get rain, there's no way that we can really increase anything. Gates have been closed now after the little bit of spring melt that we did have. We still have to pass minimum base flow, which is if you've ever been to the dam, the far left gate, it is always open to a small amount. It's a set level, and that's to pass the minimum base flow so the Coudray River below it doesn't dry up. But that is where the request is now. I know there has been some discussion at the town level that I don't know whether Bass Lake is in favor or against the proposed request, but ultimately DNR would still hold an official public hearing on that petition. No, I have not heard a set date. I have been talking, and the main point of contact with the DNR for that is Jacob Druffner. He's the water engineer specialist and dam engineer for the Department of Natural Resources.
And the minimum base flow, that is carved in stone, or is there any room for negotiation through unusual dry spells?
Right. No, I mean, that's generally set in stone, and that's the minimum amount to not basically dry up the river below the Billy Boy flowage. So I don't see that ever changing. The thing that I guess would be beneficial is if we did get a large snowfall event, or if we did have a large precipitation event, that we would be able to hold that lake to a higher level, in essence, potentially in a 6-inch increase in water level. On main Le Coudray, that would be a lesser amount as you move further upstream to Grindstone and Whitefish.
Okay, thank you. See, USDA report. We had nothing this month, I guess. Okay, item 13, Brian, tax deed foreclosure parcel, treasurer's report.
So what I'm looking here for is just the approval of the committee to proceed forward to list these properties. After reading the statute a little closer, we did determine that we do have to list them at a appraised value. We can't just set the pricing and go forward. So the first listing has to go into the paper. We have to do the notifications, the class 3 notifications. We're going to post it on the website and in one of the papers. And after a length of time, we can then start entertaining reducing the price and getting these things sold.
Okay, thank you.
With that new act, so now county's gonna inquire more costs with appraisals on all these properties throughout the county, correct?
Correct.
So can we add that into the county's recovery cost?
Yes. We can't do it in our current software that I'm aware of, so we're gonna have to just do manual like worksheets, and I'll report that. And the one column does have the fees on that, and when we get to that point where, and all the bids, before we actually let them go, unless, I'm gonna bring to this committee and say, okay, we're gonna sell this at this price.
So do you have one appraiser for the county that does this to get a uniform thing, or is it kind of whoever's available?
So for right now, what I would like to do is just, we're gonna use Novus and we're gonna use it at the fair market price. I'm sure that's pretty close to the appraised value that everything is out there at. Some of them are actually higher. We got them listed higher than the fair market price because it was just assessed so low.
When you list them, you'll list them, the green column?
Correct. That'll be the first listing, is that green column.
Well, I'll make a motion that we list these properties at the appraised rate.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The second thing there that I have on the motion, on the agenda, was an owner of that parcel, 44390, there's a map of this. He actually lotted off the 40 acres, and what's left is underwater. And he's getting a tax bill every year. He wants to give us that. He's even willing to put money towards us acquiring that small parcel that's underwater. His analogy, what he was looking to prevent, is somebody else getting their hands on it, because at this point, he's going to let it go to interim. He's going to let it foreclose because he just doesn't want to deal with it anymore.
So we take it now or we take it later?
Yeah. The disadvantages of letting it go through the process is the cost, the certified letters, the time, everything that we have to do to get to the point where we acquire it. He's willing to step up right now and help with the costs of getting it in our name.
Do we have any idea what the cost is and how much help he's offering?
Would be the cost of the deed, just the quick deed that we could get it into our name. And he said he'd put $100 towards it. I've heard deeds are if we go through Duffy, they're around $250, $270.
So we're just buying the water part of it?
Well,
Buying the land under the water.
and
Land under the water.
the
So how does that
parcel,
work for all them lots that
Yeah.
are there on that?
what it is gonna it'll prevent conflict, because if Nelson Lake ever went down and somebody got their hands on that land and now it's dry land, you could have issues with those lots,
Having access.
access to the water. Somebody could get their hands on it. The parcel to the right, I think it's a 40 there, that's Sawyer County land. So it's not like we don't have a chunk of land that we're owning there already.
Okay, anyone care to make a motion?
Jay, what are your thoughts on this?
Get it? Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of ownership of that parcel to Sawyer County with a minimal cost of a couple $100.
I'll bring it back to the meeting next
I'll
month.
second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item 14, board appointed committee updates. Anything else?
Well, I forgot to mention one thing in my report and was brought up in public comments. We do have, I actually have initial meeting today with our land water resource management plan, and there was email sent out, I believe the chair, Mr. Kariainen, that you had received an email for that for next week. There's a land water resource management. We'll have our first meeting of it, so,
It's next week.
yeah,
Okay. Do you remember what day it is?
Tuesday.
This Tuesday. Okay, thank you. All right. Correspondence, reports and conferences, from conferences and meetings. Anything there? Future agenda items. Adjournment. We stand adjourned. Thank you all.